This is the audio recording for Communism Starts in China. As usual, I will be saying next slide anytime we're about to change slides, so that way you have a chance to pause if you need to. So let's get to it. Next slide. A new China. China was ruled by emperors for thousands of years. And then in 1912, a group of nationalists took over the country and the Republic of China was established. The Chinese Nationalist Party was able to overthrow the Qing dynasty, which had been in power since the 1600s. Unfortunately, the new government was too weak to keep control of the country. Chinese warlords took over different regions and began to fight between themselves for total power. Next slide. Two parties. Many Chinese were angry and became interested in the communist revolution that was occurring in Russia. As a result, two political parties formed, the Communist Party and the Nationalist Party. Each had their own ideas about solving starvation and poverty in China. Next slide. Communist. In 1921, a group of young men met in Shanghai to form the first Chinese Communist Party, headed by Mao Zedong. These communists wanted the government to control all land, property, and businesses. They also believed China should have a command economy where the government planned everything. Next slide. This is a picture of a young Mao Zedong from 1927, and the quote says, "Revolution is not a dinner party, nor an essay, nor a painting, nor a piece of embroidery. It cannot be so refined, so leisurely and gentle, so temperate, kind, courteous, restrained, and magnanimous. A revolution is an insurrection, an act of violence by which one class overthrows another." Next slide. Communists. The Communist Party promised to improve peasants' living conditions and bring food to the poor. Mao and the Communists became very popular with farmers and poor peasants and won the support of many Chinese people. Next slide. Nationalists. The Nationalists were led by Chiang Kai-shek. They wanted China to have a market economy where citizens could make economic decisions and own their own businesses, factories, and property. Next slide. This is a picture of a young Chiang Kai-shek. Next slide. Civil War. In 1927, civil war broke out in China. Mao led over 600,000 people on the Long March through the mountains for over 6,000 miles to avoid being captured by the nationalist government. The two sides continued to fight throughout China until 1935, when they joined forces to resist Japanese invasion. Next slide. This is a painting depicting Mao on the Long March. Anytime you see communist stuff, by the way, red is going to be a color that's heavily featured. It's kind of considered the color of communism. Next slide. Control. The truce ended and the relationship became tense again after World War II. The Soviet Union supported the Communist Party and the United States helped the Chinese nationalists. Communism gained more and more supporters until they finally gained control of the nationalist government. Next slide. The PRC. On October 1, 1949, Mao declared the creation of the People's Republic of China, a communist state. Mao was appointed head of China's government and had almost complete control over the country. He became extremely popular with many Chinese when he took land from the wealthy and gave it to poor peasants. Next slide. This is Mao giving a speech, actually announcing the establishment of the People's Republic of China. A little side thing, and I'm sure I'll mention this in class, but it's very important. If you look at a country's name and they seem to be really kind of overdoing it on selling you that it's all about the people and things like that. For instance, the People's Republic of China sounds very free and people oriented. It usually, the more they spend time on that, the less free that country ends up being, just as a rule of thumb. Also, that guy second from the right is asleep in that picture. Straight up. He's out cold. End of presentation.